was apparent even to me when I came ashore that I was not normal by the lights of all the people I met. The exposure to what you might call the normal world was a difficult adjustment for me, and so somehow I conceived the idea that maybe I should try to be like them. I tried to sort of go straight and be, you know, a shoreside citizen without any sailing. I'd leave this anachronistic thing behind me. I don't think anybody aimed me in any special direction, although I was obviously, you know, entranced by my father's prestige on the schooner, his position, the way he handled himself and the people. And so emulation was a big part of my growing up. I was born in 1932 in Boston in some woman's hospital. The family lore was that I came to the schooner somewhere between the age of 2 and 4 weeks. I was ensconced in a top drawer of a chest of drawers as a cradle, and not long after that, the schooner sailed across the Atlantic, and we did 13 passages across the Atlantic in the schooner, an odd number because ultimately we sailed across the Atlantic southwest bound for Cape Horn, and I went around Cape Horn when I was 4. So, this is the gear I'm going to take with me. These are my maintenance logbooks. I'm transferring everything from the smaller one into that one. It turns out there are 26 systems on the boat. Makes it hard to keep everything under control. This is a German-made egg beater drill, which you can't get anywhere these days. Everybody has a power drill. These are imperial taps, all the way up from 4, the very small ones. I'm taking 2 buckets back to a friend because these are really good buckets. These rubber buckets, nested, they don't want to come apart. They stick to one another. Come apart. They're completely flexible. So if they bash into the boat, it's not a problem, but at the same time, they're beautifully done with a very robust metal handle. These are the best buckets you can possibly get. They come from the dairy industry. And of course, the most important ingredient of all is the hot fudge sauce. My nickname occurred as a wisecrack from somebody who was being given a tour of the schooner. He'd gone through the schooner from the bow to the stern, which is the classic tour. And this guy walked into the master's cabin. Bolted to the bulkhead in that cabin was a chest of drawers. And in the top drawer of the chest of drawers was this child, a very young child. And so having met the cook, the bosun, the mate, and some of the crew, he wisecracked. And I suppose this is the Commodore, and that was me. That nickname stuck because my parents had had a bad judgment to call me a junior, make me a junior after my father. It is a fact of human nature that if you have 2 individuals in the same space, same area, closely connected all the time, the one who is least dominant will get a nickname. And I didn't have a chance. My father was extremely dominant. Not oppressive in any way, but he was dominant. A close study of the boat will tell you more about me than anything else, I guess. At least that's what I think. Turns out, if you pack your shirts like this, even after a long passage, they're pretty fresh and even reasonably pressed. Bosun William taught me how to walk. The bosun was a man named William Palmer, and he came out of the Bahamas. He was my father's right arm at sea. He had a smelly old pipe, and he had a knife. And here's this little tyke, me, and William would put the knife in front of the pipe, and I'd crawl up, and he'd move them. It was great stuff.
The trick is to get all this stuff in the bag. Start by putting this stuff in. That maybe that way it'll be better than the other way. About the right width.
After I had a heart attack at the age of, I don't know, 60 or something, a couple of holistic questions were asked of me by a girl I was keeping company with at the time. She said, when you can get up, will you continue sailing? I had never thought about not continuing sailing, but it was a wake-up call. She also asked me, what kind of boat will you sail? And I hadn't given that much thought either. And I concluded that I had really had enough of round the buoys racing. And I decided I wanted to go from place to place, and I liked to sleep at night, full nights. So I wanted to sail in smooth water if I could, but I also wanted a boat in which I could cross oceans. The goal here is to get all this stuff down to New Zealand without paying extra freight. Although Vanderbilt said if you have to ask what it costs to operate a boat, you can't afford it. I'm not really in that league. Vanderbilt had things his own way pretty much. When you grow up at sea and you learn to walk on a vessel the way I did, crawl and then walk and climb, you become attuned to the motion. You learn to expect the motion and correct for it. And that all happened to me. That's the way I grew up. As early as I can remember, we had tasks. There was a fair amount of brass on deck, and it all got polished. And I remember being involved in that in a small way, taught how to handle polishing brass, not to put your fingers in it, things like that. But there was always something that was in the program. And it wasn't onerous work at all. I can't remember anything unpleasant about being on a Wanderbird. Schooner, or growing up on a boat and being on a boat and being active on the boat is good for you physically. You do a lot of things. And you exercise your entire body. And this is all, mental and physical combinations, muscular memory and things like that. I have never in my life done regular exercises, ever. I can't handle it. It's just too deadly dull. These are the sliders for my rail, which I helped design for Nichromarine years ago. Too heavy for modern racing boats, but really nice. These lock in that position, and they're easy to open, and they slide beautifully because they've got this plastic insert. Nice bit of hardware. I have 4 in place now, but the sliders are failing. One has to wonder what the X-ray camera is going to see when they do this. Throughout my life, I've made a lot of enemies. At least I've shocked a lot of people by saying that a really good landfall is a lot like an orgasm. And it's because there's this wonderful excitement which ultimately is terminated by a period of relaxation and fulfillment. And it seems to me the analogy is quite good. Wanderbird was a very smoothly functioning organization. That was one of my father's fortes, is making it smooth and enjoyable for all hands. And that included the kids. My sister and me playing on the deck was really very comfortable and very secure. We never had any concerns about safety of any sort. Physically, The schooner is a wonderful thing. I mean, it was entire, it was complete. My father bought Wanderbird just before the crash, 29. He borrowed money to finish the boat. He bought it for $1,300. $1,300 for an 85-foot schooner. And things were pretty distressed. And his vision was that he could do a kind of summer camp thing with the schooner. He would recruit young men and women to go away to sea, and they'd pay X amount of dollars, and they'd have an experience of bonding and teamwork and seafaring and that sort of thing. And he made it work. These are kids that hadn't been to sea before. These are kids that maybe had some kind of sailing background, or somebody in the family had a sailing background, and they had enough money so they could do this. This is after he'd attended the University of California, and after he had done the Navy, and after he had done the Merchant Marine, and after he had done the recruiting vessel up into Papua New Guinea for the cane fields of Queensland. And the schooner was much bigger than he ever thought he'd get. But she was inexpensive, and she was sound, and she was beautiful and capable, but he did a good job in getting the schooner. Wanderbird was so benevolent, so pleasant and enjoyable. It was just, you know, it was a walk in the park every day. Wonderful. I remember the music that was played on deck. I used to go to sleep on deck with the phonograph playing. That was pretty nice. Stars and the motion of the schooner. And I could never figure out how I woke up down below, because they'd carry me down sound asleep, put me in a bunk below. When I guess I was 9. My sister was 11. We lowered the mainsail on Wanderbird in the middle of a hurricane. And it was after that we got sent below, when the boat was rolling and the water came on deck. So there was that much water on deck that my father was worried about us. It was one of the few times I was ever asked to go below. When the schooner came back to Sausalito in 1941, it was a month or two before Pearl Harbor, and I was destined to stop doing homeschooling and go to public schools. But the immediate transition from the schooner was dramatic, because the schooner was no longer sailing, and I really loved the schooner with a passion that I didn't understand at the time. And so losing that was a big deal. And so now I go to school with a team of kids, and they all had skills and the capabilities that I didn't have at all. I mean, they were able to throw balls with some accuracy. They played games that I didn't know the rules to. And oddly enough, they knew swear words that I didn't know. So I was very much an outsider. And on the other hand, I was strong. I remember a kid named Red Burkell there, he was a bully kid. He always had a gang of kids following him around, and he confronted me several times in the schoolyard. And I said, you know, Red, I'm not afraid to fight you. And I said, but I'd be a damn fool to fight you with all your gang hanging around. He says, meet me down at the beach sometime, we'll have it out. And so we did that. So he hit me on the chin with his fist, and I hardly felt it. And in a matter of 5 seconds he was face down on the beach, and I was sitting across his back with his arm behind him. And I said, "Come on, Red, you got you got to do something here. I don't want to break your arm. This is stupid." I guess that was some kind of a rite of passage. I don't know. When the schooner was brought to Sausalito, essentially, she was abandoned. My father didn't have any help, and he didn't have any money to work on the schooner, and he suddenly became an 8-to-5 guy. So she began to degrade, as wooden boats do. I put them up here, these models, because they represent important parts of the life. And Wanderbird is obvious, this one here, and that's a Norman Angus model. And this is the painting that Frank Vining Smith did of the schooner, or a copy of it, I should say, photographic copy. And this little piece is a relief model of the boat with the sails, full rig. I came home from Central School one day, grammar school, and the sails, Wanderbird sails, were stacked on the dock. And I recognized them, and not only by their color and their size. I don't remember why I recognized them, but I could smell that they smelled right. And I learned that the sails were to be used as caulking in mud fill. They were putting a bunch of steam schooners, old steam schooners together, sinking them, and then they were going to seal the gap in between with the sails and fill the island with mud. That's the island which is presently has the Spinnaker restaurant at the end of it. And I can remember that was a very sad afternoon. There was lots of tears. Ultimately, my father and mother separated in 1944, I believe. My father moved to Southern California, leaving my mother on the schooner. It was his only asset, and he left her everything he had, which was that schooner. And as far as we were concerned, this schooner never sailed again. When I was 18 and 19 and so forth, I was exposed to the idea that normalcy, in quotation marks, was of value. It's something that maybe I should attempt. And so I did. I tried to sort of go straight. But I had a look at what the possibilities were, and I did various tests, and they all indicated that I had wonderful spatial relations, and I should probably be an architect or an engineer or something of that sort. So this is what I know is being called a sheet bend. Put it around twice. It's for joining ropes of 2 different sizes. And I had a good hard look at what it took to be one of those things, the amount of academic work and time in school. And I made a hard-nosed decision that I would never last, so I wasn't even going to start. I gotta find some place to make this fast. That will work. No chafing here. I spent some time with my father in Southern California, and he was at that time married to a psychiatric social worker. And so they were very psychologically oriented, and nothing would do but I attended a psychiatrist to, maybe sort out my problems. And I kind of think that my father wanted me to be a little more normal too. Anyway, that's what I did. So I spent some time with Walter Joel.
Hey, this is Nancy Tompkins. It's hilarious. We're driving at very slow speed because we have a double-decker stuff tied on the roof.
And at one stage, he said to me, are you good at what you do around boats? And I said, yeah, I'm pretty good at it. Can you earn money doing that? And I said, yes, I can earn money at it. It's not big money, but you could make a living doing these things around boats. And he said, do you like working around boats this way? I said, I love it. It's great. And he said, do you realize how many people would probably kill to have that list of positive responses? It was enough to make a man think.
Uh-oh, we're in trouble. We're definitely in trouble. Just pull over.
Nancy, thank you.
I don't
Hello,
think
officer.
you should take
We had a report about this.
Well,
Yeah, we thought we figured it was that
maybe.
woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you really feel strongly about it, we'll put the stuff on the roadside and go get the truck.
That might be an idea.
Okay.
It's just way too dangerous.
It's me again. This bitch of a woman at the airport reported us and the police just busted us, making us unload everything, and Commodore's going to drive over and come and get the truck.
Hey, Terry. There you go. I'm well. We're going to borrow Craig's truck. I lashed all the luggage on top of the car and somebody at the airport called the cops. Right. It was a big stack.
So after I stopped seeing the psychiatrist, my first move was to go to work with Myron Spalding, principally because I thought I could learn a lot about design and everything else. Myron was a racing skipper of the first order in San Francisco Bay, and he was easily the doyen of West Coast naval architects. But principally for me, he was almost a surrogate father, taught me a great deal about philosophy and attitude and manner and the work you do. I learned a tremendous amount from Myron, and that was a decision I made on the strength of Walter Joel. And you could argue that, you know, Dr. Joel really did me well. And I've really never looked back. And it's been, for me, it's been dead easy except financially. And this has lots and lots of background history. This is me talking to Myron Spalding, and a dearly loved friend. He was very close to the end of his life at this stage. He was a sweet guy and very talented. And it's actually the only photograph I have of him and me together.
Ah, Mr. Partridge. We're going to take the truck to Bar 14 Lane, and then we're going to meet you at Bar 14 for lunch.
Oh, really?
You've forgotten all that.
Was it today?
No, today.
Okay, you want the truck. I want the truck.
A long time ago, I reasoned that all the laws and the rules and so forth were designed on some kind of average or common denominator, and that the whole goal in life and activity was to make it through and do the things you want to do, things that are worth doing. And if you were going to apply good judgment, then maybe you didn't have to pay quite so much attention to the rules. And you see examples of that now. In previous years, I had made whatever living I had and had the kind of fun that I had by sailing on rich people's boats, because I was a hot ticket. I could steer well and I could handle sails, and I was energetic. And so I sailed with a lot of rich guys in a lot of different boats. And one of the boats that came to pass was a yacht that I was integrally involved with. I conceived her, and fomented the design, and changed a whole lot of things. It was a FAR design boat, and I managed to get a sponsor from Japan who was willing to buy the boat so we could enter a race, Melbourne to Osaka, Melbourne, Australia to Osaka. Her name was Nakiri Daio, means King of the Sea, and Dolphin. The upper model was named Spellbound, and she was painted that color. And I built it I supervised the construction of that boat for a man named Jim Hill, who was an old sailing buddy of mine, and we raced in fins together. And then a couple years later, I got an inquiry about doing the Melbourne-Osaka race, and we used the same mold to build this boat. She's a little different in the stern. We sawed it off a shade so she'd fit the new rule. And we put a new fin on it, obviously, and a new rudder. And we raced the Melbourne-Osaka race and won it big time. We were about a day ahead of the second boat. Double-handed race, a guy named Kaoru Ogimi and I. I was young and full of beans. One of my big problems in the sailing world was that when I met these financiers, these guys who considered themselves very successful, I was at least their equal or their superior in the realm in which we found ourselves. You know, I was a seaman, I was a sailor, I was athletic, I was quick,
You know, I contributed materially to the success of their yachts. And so I saw myself as an equal or a superior to these guys. And it caused lots of friction, and you know, in many ways I'm famous for that. I don't think I'm a great gifted helmsman at all. Better than average, and I pay pretty good attention, but I'm not that skilled. Some people are extraordinarily deft. Blackaller is one such, Connors is another, Kayard has the touch, and all these great sailors have that touch. But I'm not in that league. If they beat me on the race course, they'll know they've had a tussle, but they'll almost always beat me. I have beaten Paul Elstrom twice. You know, that's a real feather. I thought that I was a better seaman than any of these guys, and not so good a racer. I was certainly a better seaman than Blackaller. We used to make jokes about Tom. You know, if your worst nightmare is if Tom would drop the tiller and come try to help you on the foredeck. There is no such thing as certainty in this game. You're sailing a boat in the ocean is a whole collection of calculated risks and estimates. The ocean is impassive, it's enormously powerful, and there is a condition out there it'll take any boat, any person. I think I did 4 Sydney Hobart races. In this case, Ted Turner had chartered the boat. So it was a really good crew. Alan Blunt, me, Scott Kaufman. We were leading the race, sailing hard, and I was a watch captain. And Turner was down below. He was the other watch captain. I'm steering the boat. It was blowing hard, big winds, pretty big winds anyway. So Scott was on the lee side of the cockpit, and it was a relatively short tiller, and I was on the windward side. And when tiller wanted to go my way, the boat wanted to bear off to port, I'd put both feet on the other side of the cockpit and pull. And Scott would do the other thing, the opposite direction. And I was the driver, though. So we're steering along, and it was very vigorous. And as watch captain, I said to the owner in the hatch, I said, "Is Turner awake?" Turner being the master of the vessel. And the response was, "Yes, he's steering holes in the bottom of the bunk above him." So you have to understand, the boat was rushing down the waves, going like hell, probably blowing 30, 35 or so.
So he's a bit nervous.
He was nervous as hell, that's right, and wide awake, alert, you know. So he was the master, and I was just a watch captain.
And he was paying
So
attention.
I had, that was my presumption. So
And not getting a lot of rest.
not getting any rest. So we sailed on for a while, and a hard squall comes in, and the bow goes underwater. And I remember pushing the tiller to leeward. So now I'm up close to Scott, about as close as I am to you, right? And I said into his ear, you know, conversational tones. Or he said to me, rather, "This will be interesting," because the green water had covered the bow of the boat. The bow of the boat was completely underwater, solid green water back to the mast. So the boat was probably about that angle in the water. And Alan Blunt, who was in a bunk down below, told me later that it was pretty startling because the boat slowed down so fast that he was driven into the bulkhead, his feet driven into the bulkhead. He could feel the pressure against his feet. And he said that wasn't the hardest part. The worst part was that after that, it got worse.
Oh, gosh.
Boom, and then more.
Oh.
And I made this mistake of trying to keep her going straight, figuring that she'd clear the deck and carry on, but she didn't. She stumbled and she fell pull down. The owner did what he was told to do. He let go of the foreguy. The spinnaker pole swung back in the water, and it broke around the starboard shrouds, but it also broke the spreader root. So there we are standing at sea. We got the spinnaker down all right, but there's a broken spreader on the starboard side, that's right.
So the mast has less support now.
Exactly. Very likely to come
The
down.
upper stay was now slant.
The shrouds were not properly supported. So it's the middle of the night, of course. This is when all these things happen. And Turner came on deck pretty startled and started ranting and raving, really misbehaving very badly. He's a great intellect, he really is. And he's done a lot of good things, I think. But on this occasion, he behaved very badly. And I wound up, I know that I told him, I said, listen, Ted, he says, you got to straighten up here. If you want me to help and you want me to stay on deck, you got to straighten up and stop behaving this way. Otherwise, I'm going to go down below and you won't see me until after the finish. So he had to make a choice, and he chose to have me work. So we go into repair mode, and Alan Blunt tears up all the strips. She had teak strips in the cabin sole to walk on, let the water and stuff go through. So we unscrewed all those, and we had enough material to splint the spreader. And I went aloft in Bose's chair with this material, and we fixed the spreader. And within 2 hours, we had the spinnaker back up. And I made the splints go around the mast. So anyway, we repaired that. We got the boat going. We got second in the race. In spite of the crash. And the only boat to beat us was Indian Pacific with the broken spreader.
Okay, how many boats in the race?
I don't know, 60, 70, 100, something like that. A lot of boats. Oh, gee, I forgot the bacon. No wonder.
Oh, I thought something
All that
was
trouble.
missing. Thought maybe you ate it all.
The Yacht Improbable is one of the boats I'm most pleased about. And she took form actually in this house because I mentioned to Ron Holland, with whom I was sailing at the time, he was less than 20 years old then, that it's possible to build a boat in cold molded Cowrie in New Zealand and take it to the SORC, which was at that time the principal venue for ocean racing. And you could burn the thing after 10 races and you'd still be ahead of the game. I should have polished this for this purpose, but I didn't get around to it. The men who created Barriott winches. One of them owned the yacht Baruna and the other one owned the yacht Orient. And they melded the names and went into business together in the machining business. And that's where the word Barriott came from. So this is the Barriott winch. And it specifies number 22 on the top. And you can hear the wonderful sounds it makes. When these winches were designed and built, they were the very finest in the world. And when we did the Yacht Improbable, it dawned on me that a combination of wire jib sheets and remote cranking would enable the boat to tack very fast. And as a result of that, installing those ideas on that boat enabled her to be near the lead in the first mark on every race. The other principal concept there was the boat would be long and light, and it would be capable of high speed, and there would be nothing aboard it which didn't contribute to the sailing speed. The only cabin structure would be enough to stand up to cook and to put on your slickers. And so we did that. And one of the details was to cross-link the winches so that you could make this winch go by cranking on this one. And that has the benefit of speeding up the whole operation. Barriott was doing winches in those days, and I called them and asked them to do that for us, and they did. We distributed the winches around the mast so you could work on the winches while somebody else was jumping the halyards, which distributed the labor and the space available. And these ideas all came together because I was paying attention. I knew that the storm systems in the Atlantic traveled at about 8 knots. So if you had a boat which could achieve 8-knot speed, then you could stay with a storm system, which is what everybody's doing these days to try to set records. Now I got to clean the glass. I was seriously handicapped by my parents in the matter of male-female relationships because they led me to believe that men and women were the same except for plumbing. But I have come to learn through experience, the hard way you could say, I've come to learn that men and women think differently and there is a distinct difference in their interests, which it took me I had to be 60 years old before I finally grasped the significance of this. So there was an incident one time in San Francisco when the two J-boats were going to be racing, match racing. It was Pursuit and Windward. And on a preceding delivery, I had been with some guy and we'd carried away a main halyard, and I had volunteered to go aloft while we were at sea and fix it. And he said, "How are you going to get up there?" And I said, "I'll climb the mast." And he said, "You can't climb that mast." And I said, "I can climb any mast you ever saw." Okay, I didn't see him for another year or something. And the next time I saw him, he was standing on the deck of Pursuit. And I was in the company of a young woman who I very much fancied. And he goes, "I bet you can't climb this mast." And I said, "Oh, of course I can." And he said, "All right, $20. I said, "Okay, $20. And he said, "All the way to the top without stopping." I said, "You drive a hard bargain, Mark," and did it. So when I came to the deck, somewhat winded, after all, it was 120 feet. People with cameras rallied around and said, "Do it again, do it again." I didn't do it again. I came to the male-female thing looking for perfection, looking for something which was going to work indefinitely. And I guess you could say that I had bought the myth that people mate for life. And I had gone through a number of attempts. There were a lot of girls that I spent time with, but not many of them were candidates for a long-time relationship. And I concluded that, I just didn't have what it took to do it. And I was never satisfied with myself as a figure, a male figure. I was very unsure of how to deal with girls. And so what I tried a lot. I was walking down the street in Auckland City, and I felt something in my chest, which was unusual. And I decided that it had to be dietary, because I was unwilling to have anything else happen. I wasn't going to go to the hospital, I wasn't going to have surgery performed. It had to be dietary, I decided in my medical brilliance. And so I stopped drinking tea because I wasn't going to stop eating chocolate. And that particular phenomenon never seemed to happen when I was at sea. I experienced one of these sensations in the morning when I was with a woman, and she went off to work. And then not long after she left, I had another one. Ultimately, she came back from work, and I was rubbing her feet because she liked to have her feet rubbed, and I liked her. And so I was rubbing her feet for a while, and I stopped. And she said, "Don't stop." I said, "I gotta stop. My forearms hurt." And this woman, knew something about medicine. And her response was, "Put your clothes on and we're going to the hospital right now." And we did. And they admitted me and they gave me a dual bypass. And when I came out of the hospital, she asked me two questions. The first question was, "When you are better, will you sail again?"
Well, we will see. Is this finished sail now? Finished?
Yeah, it's finished. Yep.
Let's fold it up.
And then her second question was, "When you are sailing in the future, what kind of sailing is it going to be?" I mean, she was personally responsible for causing me to think in different terms. And what I concluded in response to her question was that I wasn't going to sail the way I did sail in the previous years. In the previous years, I had made whatever living I had and had the kind of fun that I had by sailing on rich people's boats.
The man and his sail.
My response to the second question was that I would not do that any longer.
I would try to sail for myself. And I would do what I could to get a boat for myself. And ultimately, I sailed with a guy named Jonathan Livingston in San Francisco, and he had a boat called Punk Dolphin.
Got the con, Commodore?
Yep. And the boat sailed well,
We got plenty of room over here, sugar.
and Jonathan himself had a lot to do with it because he was so much fun to sail with.
You lied.
And she was the prototype out of the mold, which is ultimately delivered Flash Girl.
Well, you'd be happy to know that I did the deed last night.
Which was?
Prop, cleaning, polish, bottom.
Jesus, Jonathan.
I told Sandra that you're like the princess and the pea. If the boat doesn't have a perfect bottom, you're gonna feel it. And I had to.
Okay, I was hoping to save you all that
Well, I went down there thinking, I'll just do a little wipe. And I kept looking at it going, oh, this thing's dirty. So,
Dignitary.
And ultimately, I contacted Tom Wiley and said, what about such and such a boat? And he told me the details, and we struck a bargain, and he helped me enormously all the way through the building process. I, of course, was wildly off in my estimates about cost. This frequently happens. This boat is designed, as I said, about the post-heart attack thing. It was conceived to be a pleasant sailing boat where you could go to pleasant places. And if you had hard weather, you do your best to avoid it, and you suffer it. Construction of Flash Girl was a lifelong dream. I've always wanted my own boat. And that's something that my father had imprinted into me. Wanted my own command. And this is a toy compared to what he sailed. His vessel was capable of rounding Cape Horn, and did. This vessel it might survive down there, but I wouldn't take it there to test it. And it's a toy, relatively speaking, and I recognize that, but enormously satisfactory. What did I give up to get it? I gave up being normal. I'm standing in what I call the forepeak of Flash Girl, and it's a shower facility and a toilet and a storage facility all together. When I started doing this boat, I knew I was going to sail with a woman, although I didn't have a woman in my life at the time. And sure enough, a woman showed up, and she's now sailing with me. And if you think about it for a while, you know that most women are not happy on sailboats, and one of the reasons is you don't supply the things that they most often need. They need a place to entertain. They need a place to cook. They want to have a place to snuggle. I mean, if you are in the right frame of mind with a female, you need a place to sleep, probably together, at least the kind of women that I hang out with. And you need a place to be clean, hygiene. Getting the salt off your body is pretty important. The shower wand, very conventional. It has a fixing place where you can put it if you want to shower. This is a rather homely detail, but when you sit on the toilet, when the boat takes a lurch, the seat comes adrift. So I keyed this into the toilet. This is a little device so that this piece won't move. It's jammed, it can't move. And so this piece is keyed in by being teak. And the whole thing is teak, so it's a good surface to sit on. It's pleasant, it's not cold. So I put big sinks in her because it's more like home, more home-like, more pleasant. And they hold quite a lot of water, but they're nice to use. It's one of the nice features of this boat. So this is the hygiene department as well as storage up here. Everything over here is sailing gear. The Genoa sheets, and this is spare cordage, and behind them these are control lines for the sheets and the boom, and behind there is the spinnaker gear. There are 3 anchors arrayed in here, stowed neatly. Each of these is about 9 feet long, and they're sort of expendable, but they're quite strong and more than adequate to lift a man's weight. So you use them for anything, everything, and I have about 40 pieces. We use them to put the sails away. When the sails are taken off the headstay, they're bricked. And this is our new number 3.
And that's the form in which it's bricked. So you see the bullshit rope in play. So having done that, all of this area up forward is where we stow our sails. And it's sort of like the garage in most people's house, because anything you don't have space for elsewhere, it goes up there. When I started working on the boat, Tom Wiley, who was my mentor in all things construction, and particularly with this boat, and a great friend, said to me I would be fighting for inches every step of the way in this boat. And he was 100% correct. So there's a lot of stuff crammed in here, most of it not visible. One of the things which is visible is this tow space. And it has the effect of making the cabin feel bigger. And so when you walk through here, you can turn your foot without any difficulty. And if you didn't have the tow space, you couldn't do that. And it would also be awkward sitting here, because this is where your feet just go by themselves. Even me, and I'm kind of average in size. Bigger people have obviously longer legs, but that space is really critical. And nobody really notices it. One of the reasons this boat is different is because I looked and looked for a boat that I liked that I could buy without having to do all the work. But I couldn't find one. I couldn't find one that's even close. So I gave up. Decided I had to do my own. And this is it. Make the cabinetry removable so you could work at all the stuff inside. But the cabinetry is unique because not many boats you can really take apart this readily. And you can get completely under there just like you can with the engine. This is the engine box, and that's just because we walk in and out over it, and we like to try to protect the varnish. I was going to make this carbon fiber, but Nancy liked it varnished, so we kept it that way. So this is the engine. It's a little Perkins engine. And then this the stainless steel box back there is the hot water heater. It works off the engine heat. It turns out that 3/4 of the energy consumed when you run an engine goes off in heat. And so a smart person, if he likes hot showers like I do, will always have some kind of a heat exchanger to heat the water. And it works a treat. These are 17-inch increments, all of them, all the way up to the deck. And it was predicated on the height of this seat, which enables whoever's on watch to sit here and to see all sailing instruments and look out the windows in the Dodger and look aft and manage the autopilots. There's a pair of autopilots controls mounted right here. So how to make such a device which is robust enough, and the aforementioned Jonathan Livingston turned me on to his bicycle manufacturer. This was manufactured by a bicycle builder, the carbon fiber tubes. And the whole thing weighs 12 pounds, everything, including the teak. And it's glued on. Tom Wiley came to me the day before we launched, and late in the night, we glued this thing in place. Finished about 11 o'clock at night, and the next day, something like 200 people walked on it. Pretty impressive glue. It's good for 700 pounds per square inch, I think. One of the things that's different on this boat is the master berth is a full-size queen berth. And that has to do with cuddling and that sort of thing. These are 4-inch foam mattresses, but this was our ultimate solution, these things. And these are injection molded springs out of Germany, which have the function of keeping the mattresses aerated on the bottom side so they don't mildew, which is really, really nice. And aside from that, it's comfortable. And most people are navigating with electronics these days. I use GPS and paper charts if I can, which is awkward because we travel a lot. I mean, we change archipelagos on a regular basis. And so you have to carry a lot of charts. I take the GPS off the instrument and I plot it in the chart. And then I know where I am. There's a visceral sensation that you don't get, that I don't get by looking at electronic charts. So I don't really like electronic charts, although the information is there. But for me, the feeling is different. And so if I have plotted my position on a chart vis-a-vis a headland or something of that sort, then I feel comfortable with it. But the electronics just don't do it for me. I had just abandoned hope for a relationship, and some time had gone by, and I bumped into Nancy Potter, And a couple of things were true about Nancy. One is that her last name appealed to me because there is a boat in Britain about which I'd read, and I really was delighted by the name. It was called the West White Potter. And in this particular context, it was meant to be the kind of boat you potted about in. You'd get in this boat and pot about. And I thought it has really nice connotations. And Nancy had nothing to do with the West White Potter. She was an interesting person. And we came together because Nancy and her friend came to dinner, and Nancy sat between me and Robert Flowerman. And we talk. She reveals that her father had been in the building trades, and she was curious about how boats were built. And so Robert said at that dinner, he said, well, if you're really serious about wanting to know how boats are built, you should go up and see Commodore's boat. So she did. And on that drive, she told me something about her history in life. And she had a lot of fiber. She made some profound decisions and went with them. And I admired that, an element of independence. And she liked sailing. So a guy in my position needed all those things. And I had, by this time, decided that perfection was not on the horizon or achievable. And so whatever shortcomings I perceived, I thought I could overlook. We were going to launch Flash Girl. By this time, Nancy was living with me. And it was a pretty big deal, because I've been in the sailing world. I called in a lot of favors to build the boat, not having much money. And so there were 150 or 200 people who were curious about the boat. So we decided to invite them and have a really splashy launching. What a great thing to do. And Nancy likes music, and so we had gone to Jack London Square to listen to a musical group, which she wanted to recruit for the launching ceremony. And there was some kind of a sort of a street scene fair going on in the square. And there was a flower stall. So on the spur of the moment, I went over and grabbed 3 bunches of flowers. It cost me $15, I think. And I took a knee and I asked her to marry me. So I said, Nancy, will you marry me? And she didn't answer. And this is one of those small imperfections. She doesn't answer questions. She, if you ask her, is she hungry? She will say, I had a meal at 2, for example. In this case, I'm on my knee, the question is in the air, and I said, Nancy, this is a question which requires a yes or a no answer. And that's how it all came about. The answer was yes. And we did a surprise, unannounced marriage at the launching because we had a person there to bless the boat anyway, just for the fun of it, and a Unitarian minister of some kind. And we surprised everybody, especially Tom Wiley, who was standing in the back of the crowd talking about design, I suppose, at the time. And a big cheer went up in the audience, and he turned around, what happened? It was quite fun. We wanted to do a ceremony where the guests didn't feel any obligation, that they were coming because they wanted to come. And in an interesting way, it revealed who our real friends were. There were a lot of people that said, I would have come if I'd known there was a wedding. And there's, write those guys off. So that's how all that happened. I put Flash Girl together so I could go in the ocean in a sailboat under my own command. And I specifically wanted to take a woman with me because I like women, I've always liked women. And they have challenges and gratifications that you can't get any other way. What I wanted to do was to share my experience and skills on adventures which were centered around the boat. And we've done that. Nancy and I have done that. We've been to these exotic, beautiful places, Fiji and New Guinea and New Caledonia, Australia, New Zealand, Tonga, Cook Islands, French Polynesia, all this wonderful stuff. So this boat is designed to deliver gratification. My father was a different kind of sailor than I was. My father wanted to go around Cape Horn because it was a big challenge. It's a difficult thing to do, and sailing a vessel with no engine and the navigational side of it, tough stuff. And he was proud of what he did. He did a good job, and I retain to this day a really high regard for his skills. Wanderbird sailed around Cape Horn in 1936-37, so I was 4. That was 79 years ago. As my father wrote in the introduction to his book, no seaman can really be confident that he could handle Cape Horn until he goes there and does it. And the preparation for that and the selection of a vessel for that purpose is too demanding, too time-consuming, too expensive, and it's sort of single purpose. If you have a vessel which is capable of keeping the sea in Cape Horn conditions, then she's going to be ill-suited for many other things. And I have created a yacht which I think is admirably suited for middle latitudes. And there is information abroad that says gentlemen don't go to windward, and gentlemen, in my view, don't go beyond the 40th parallel. The matter of proving something by going to sea it's not the driving force for me. The thing that drives me to go away in a boat is the exercise of those things that I have learned. I don't have a hell of a lot of time left on a sailboat, and I want to look at a good sail while I'm doing it. I've got a sail now, which I think is a good-looking sail, and it should last the 5 years. I'll be pushing 90. My wife laughs at me because for the last 15 years I've been saying 5 more years, 5 more years, 5 more years. And that's what I'm saying today. So here I am, 175 degrees east, 35 south. And San Francisco is 38 degrees north and about 118 west. So I'm a long way from home. And I think I want to go home.